Hello and good day, Mike Adcock with your Worldwide Tropical Outlook. It's the 25th of July. Do have a few areas that we're tracking. Main attention is going to be on Tropical Storms Dorian and Flossie in the Atlantic and Eastern Pacific respectively. Do have a couple of disturbances that I'll also touch on as well. First up though, Tropical Storm Dorian at 9 Zulu. It was 1,125 kilometers west of the Cape Verde Islands. Winds have strengthened up to 50 knots, gusting up to 60. It is continuing to move off to the west-northwest at 15 knots, and our pressure is down to 999 hectopascal. No watches or warnings with this bulletin. Here's our surface analysis from the National Weather Service. Dorian is starting to remove itself from the monsoon trough. With that being said, here is our track forecast from the National Hurricane Center, and it's basically continuing in that west-northwesterly fashion for the next few days. In terms of intensity, low confidence with that one, pretty much holding right about the 50 knot mark, possibly 55. The one thing I do want to point out is most of the weather, or most of the winds associated with this system is on the northern side here. So although the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, you guys remain in the cone at this time, and this storm definitely is worth watching. Most of the effects are going to be on the northern side. That doesn't keep you from some showers though, and some gusty winds as we get to the start of next work week. But of course, I do want to point our attention to the Bahamas as we get toward the middle or latter half of next week. This may be of interest to you. In terms of our 6Z model data, track continues it off in that pretty much a straight west-northwesterly fashion, in pretty good agreeance as Dorian remains on the south edge of the subtropical ridge. The concern is after about the 72-hour mark, where there's going to be a little bit of a weakness in the ridge. How much is that going to help slow down the forward motion of Dorian, and how much is it going to pull it off to the north? Right now, the National Hurricane Center forecast has been shifted slightly northward and remains just south of the consensus, but we'll have to continue to watch the trends over the next few days to see how this pans off. I wish the intensity guidance had that similar that tight packing. It's not really the case though. Low confidence here in this forecast. What we're dealing with, okay, we're marginal water temperatures now. Over the next few days, those temperatures will start to warm up. However, at the same time that occurs, Dorian may start getting into some wind shear associated with an upper level low, some drier stable air in the mid levels. So counteracting forces, it's going to be difficult. Unfortunately, you've got some models that are saying, Dorian's going to weaken and become just a depression. On the other hand, you've got some that bring it up to hurricane strength. What's the right answer? It's going to be very tough to tell. Right now, the National Hurricane Center forecast is pretty much in alignment with the ship's model, slightly stronger than with the consensus, but right around 45-50 knots at least is the general concept. We'll see how much adverse conditions affects Dorian. That's going to be the biggest player. It's going to be, unfortunately, a wait-and-see game. For our Dvorak analysis, quite a bit of strengthening we've seen. 8/10 banding, so that's caused our data T to go up to 3.5, and that makes for our final T. The advanced Dvorak technique, pretty much on point as well, would suggest about 1,001 hectopascal, or about 53 knots. So, and really seeing this trend continue. We'll see how much though additional strengthening occurs. Do have our microwave imagery here. This was actually from about 139 Zulu. You do see this the area of green wind barbs to the south and north of the system. That indicates tropical storm force winds. Of course, we've seen better satellite presentations since then, so that's indicating these stronger now 50 knot force winds out there. Here's our Here's our sea surface temperatures, again just warming up as Dorian continues making its trek westward. And for upper air analysis, 200 hectopascal here. Dorian off to the corner here, moving away from this anticyclone, right in the center of the Atlantic, though pocket of drier air, kind of a call area. The concern is going to be with this upper level low, especially around the southern periphery, where you do have a finger of the subtropical jet riding around. It's these winds here, 50 knots, that is really going to be hindering any intensification from Dorian. And you can see on the shear analysis that pretty much holds true as well. Pretty light conditions over and just ahead of the system, but as we get past 50 west, shear starts to intensify, especially under that finger of the subtropical jet where we're looking at 50 knots or greater. Because Dorian is still well out to sea, nothing right now in terms of a recon schedule. We'll see on the next update if they slip anything into the outlook for a eventual reconnaissance mission. On the Eastern Pacific front, Tropical Storm Flossie just upgraded at 9 Zulu, 1,685 kilometers west-southwest of the southern tip of Baja, California. 35 knots now, 45 for your gusts, and he continues to track off to the west-northwest at 1,004 for your pressure. Not expected to affect land in the near term. Flossie is starting to pull itself from the monsoon trough toward Hawaii, and that's going to be what we're going to watch for the next few days. This continued west-northwesterly motion, some near-term strengthening as it's still under some very warm conditions, but as we get into the Friday and to the weekend, much cooler waters. Matter of fact, getting by Friday sub 26 Celsius temperatures. Much more stable conditions as we approach Hawaii. So although the forecast does take it toward Hawaii, and the models do the same thing by the 5-day point, how much Flossie affects the Hawaiian Islands is going to be, chances are, not a whole lot at all. Some increased showers, possibly some gusty winds, but by this point the system should be pretty weak. But we'll have to continue to see the trends of the forecast. The forecast has started to shift a little bit further south, so we'll see how that ends up playing for the eventual track of this storm. The intensity guidance, again, kind of all over the place, but really not seeing a whole lot of strengthening, possibly a little bit intensification in the next 24 hours, and then at that point leveling off and just starting to weaken from there as we get toward the weekend. For our Dvorak analysis, not much going on here. T2.5, not getting anything from the advanced Dvorak technique. 4/10 banding is what's giving us our data T and final T there. Of course, warm conditions across the across the Eastern Pacific there, but should start cooling down, especially you get into this ridge of, or this trough rather, of cooler water near Hawaii. For the upper air analysis, only thing we're tracking is just this pocket of drier air associated with this anticyclone between Flossie and the Hawaiian Islands. For our wind shear analysis, again, light conditions now, but as we continue tracking off, wind shear does pick up as well, looking at closer to 40-50 knots as we approach the Hawaiian Islands. So near term looks good, but after that, some rather rapid weakening just with the adverse conditions out there. Alright, for our two tropical disturbances real quick, like 99L, this is about 585 kilometers east of Bermuda, 20 knots with this and 20% chance of development per NHC. Really is running out of time for it to develop before it starts moving northward over some cooler waters over the next day or so. Here's our track guidance. May be a concern for the maritime provinces of Canada. Some gusty winds there, showers as well, but not anticipating it for any significant strengthening. Intensity guidance, on the other hand, seems to feel that it may strengthen up to get to tropical storm strength That's of course assuming that this system is already a depression. I think it's got a long way to go before we get to depression status. So I think this intensity guidance suite is a bit bullish. Back over on the Western Pacific side, 90W. We've been tracking this the past couple days as 98W, just south of Hong Kong, about 385 kilometers. Again, really not expecting much out of this except for some heavy showers and thunderstorms across the southeastern provinces of China. This area has been hit by a couple of weak tropical cyclones over the past month or so. Of note would be Typhoon Solik. Additional rainfall really isn't what they need right now, so flooding concerns will be of note with this tropical disturbance. That concludes our update. Quite a bit going on across the tropics right now. Of course, you can get this and additional Western Pacific analysis over at westernpacificweather.com or follow along on Facebook and Twitter. Of course, join in the conversation for any of the tropical cyclones across the globe at storm2k.org. Follow me on Twitter at SeniorPepper to get the latest updates between videos. Thank you for tuning in, of course, and have a great day. Take care.